Hi, George.
Hi, George.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
It is wine day.
Wine
Cheers
Wednesday.
to you, friend.
Ooh, that was a good cheers.
That was a good cheers. Happy Wednesday to you.
Happy Wednesday to you. How do you like the wine?
I like it. I very much recommend it.
Let's see, what's it called? Dutton Goldfield Chardonnay.
And let me tell you, it is gold.
Jocelyn's comments were, wow, this is very yellow.
It's really yellow.
It's delicious.
It is delicious, but I just feel like it's more yellow than wine usually is. But that's because I only drink one kind of wine all the time. So you're broadening my horizons.
I am not usually a Chardonnay drinker. Ryan, my husband, loves Chardonnay. But this is delish.
Did he pick this?
No. Our neighbors who do our grocery shopping for us so that we
They're
don't
very
have to
good
go
neighbors.
out in pandemic world.
Dutton
Dutton
Goldfield Chardonnay.
2017.
Oh, fancy.
From, does that say Russian River Valley?
I don't know where that is.
Me either. We can Google later. But
It's
anyways,
delicious though.
10 out of 10 recommend.
Yes, and we actually put a picture of it up on our Instagram if you would like to go check it out.
Yeah, check out our highlights on the whiningsmomspodcast.com. Welcome back for another episode. Do you
Of
have
the
a
Whining
whine?
Moms podcast.
Are you whining this week or are you winning?
I'm whining because I literally, it was 11 o'clock at night the other night and I almost texted you and I was like, I can't, this is too much of a story. I have to just relive it with you in person. So this is kind of a whine that's a nod to just the mom brain.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we always have to be on because, again, this was 11 o'clock at night where this particular wine happened.
Always.
So we have our garbage day where we have to bring our trash and recycling bins out on Tuesday morning. Well, you're supposed to bring them out Monday night for Tuesday morning.
Got it.
So we do that, right? And we pretty much exclusively do not bring them back Tuesday night like we are supposed to. We bring them back sometime Wednesday, which our HOA does not find entertaining. But it's just all the days blend together now anyways. So we bring our trash cans out, but I don't know how you feel about a diaper genie. Do you have a diaper genie?
No.
Okay.
We bring our diapers like directly to the garbage in the kitchen and then like immediately take them out because we can't.
We skip even the kitchen garbage because it just gets real sticky. I literally walk them down the side yard into the trash can because it just, I don't know what it is.
Well, you can't just
poop
keep
is so
poop in your
stinky.
house.
You can't keep poop in your house. Like the diaper genies start to stink. So sorry if you guys are diaper genie fans, but
Emptying a diaper
I
genie
can't.
is like a special type of torture. I did it twice when I first had Claire, and then I
because you
to
did
never
have
again.
one. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a diaper genie. So we just have a small trash can in what was both kids' room, but now just Gavin's for pee diapers, and we take the poop ones out. But when the trash cans are at the curb, I can't walk them out to the curb because we have a security gate on the front of our house that's locked, and my dog tries to run away every time you open the front door.
And
he
you can't
barks
be
at
the
everything.
person that brings your trash to the can
Just to the
and
curb
then,
and
then
just drops it in.
drops it and comes back inside.
So I mean,
you
I
could,
would.
but our neighbors would stare at you.
Listen.
They're very invested in what we're doing.
They are really. My neighbors, that's a whole nother story. My neighbors are very invested. So instead, I can't bring it down the side yard, but my dog, this story is really gross. My dog will like get into the diapers if we just like toss them down the side yard, which my husband also frowns upon. He's like, you can't just throw poop down the side yard. I'm like, well, I don't know. It's fine.
You're also like keeping two other tiny humans alive. So
right. I'm like, depends what's happening when the toss happens. But my dog, because of, I talk about my dog's medications a lot, but he's on another new medication. And it makes him this is gross. It makes him want to eat everything. We'll just put it at that. So, my dog will get into the diapers if I just toss them down the side yard. So what we have to do on trash day, because it's not an option to walk them out to the curb, we have to go put them in the backyard because they stink, but the only place that we can put them is on top of the kids' playhouse that they have outside because it's the only place outside that's tall enough that Shiloh, the dog, can't get to them. So I'll just go put them out there for and usually there's usually maybe one diaper while the trash cans are at the curb. So then when we bring the trash cans back, we just grab the diaper, put it in the trash can. So come Wednesday night this week, garbage cans go out Tuesday. It's Wednesday night. We're taking the kids up to bed, and the trash cans are still at the curb because we're winning at life right now. So I say to my husband, I'm like, it's gonna rain tonight. We have to bring the trash cans in because the diapers are outside. And he's like, oh gosh, yeah, we do. Mind you, for some reason, we had 4 poop diapers that day. 4, and they were just lined up on the top of the house outside because, again.
And what are the chances on that day winning. In Arizona it's going to rain?
So, yeah. So we put them to bed. The night goes on. We both forget about the diapers. And so I go to bed, and I've been having a really hard time falling asleep lately, partly because it's just quiet at night and I'm enjoying my TV shows in the silence. And partly because I think I just have some sort of pandemic-related insomnia. But
hashtag mom life.
Mom life, for sure. So I'm laying in bed, and I'm, like, finally falling asleep. It's, like, 10:45, and I'm finally, like, got my brain to shut off. And I'm, like, I can feel myself relaxing. And right in that moment, I hear the rain start pouring down, and I'm like, oh, that sounds nice. Followed immediately by the diapers.
No.
So I, like, pop out of bed.
I
run, because it would have been a poop shower all over their pretty pink house that they have outside. And so I, like, run downstairs. I run outside. I literally get a bag, grab all the diapers off of the house outside.
And you're pissed.
Put them, I was just kind of laughing at myself, to be honest, but
I would be so pissed.
I mean, I was, but it was also beautifully rainy, and, like, it smelled great outside, and I was like, all right, let's
despite the diapers.
I was like, all right. So I'm, like, putting all the diapers in there. Literally, I kid you not, the second I get inside, it starts just pouring rain, which never happens in Arizona. Pouring rain. I'm like, I made it just in time. So I had this little bit of a satisfaction of, like, I beat the diapers. But I walked back inside, and I left a note for my husband because he gets up and works at, like, 6 in the morning, which,
if not earlier,
I'm super proud of him for doing that. But I also just left him a note, and I was like, I saved us from the poop shower on the house outside.
I like how you had
we gotta
self-credit.
We gotta bring the cans in the morning. But I kind of just figured he would, like, laugh at me when he woke up in the morning, because he'll sleep through anything. But it's the mom brain of just, like, oh, it's the relaxing rain diapers that happened. And I was just come on. Like, I'm glad that I remembered, because it would have been super gross in the morning. But I was also just like, oh, it was such a nice relaxing moment, and I was falling asleep to. And then I proceeded
the rain, and it's beautiful, and you're like, wow, this never happens in Arizona. And then you're like,
and then I proceeded to not fall asleep for another, like, hour and a half, because my heart was racing, because I had to go
because you
poop
sprung
diapers.
Up, like,
because I didn't want there to be poop.
Laying down to
I
just
didn't want there to be
standing
poop
up.
rain in my backyard. So that's my wine.
Well, really good job on not having your kids in a poop shower.
I mean, they wouldn't have been there.
Well, like, their beloved playhouse.
I know, it would have been so gross. I'd had to really soapy clean it. So, anyways, I saved it, and we're good now.
That's really great.
Because the diapers would have, like, absorbed the rain. Like, the more I think about it, like...
And then they, like, kind of disintegrate, so, like, you can never get those pieces of a diaper.
So much. It rained so much overnight.
It did. It was...
There are puddles in my yard. Like, normally it's just a little bit of a trickle, but no.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with what it's like in Arizona when it rains, it kind of is like either a flash flood or it just, like, sprinkles, and half the street will be wet and half the street will be dry. And then, or it's like a big monsoon, and then that's pretty much it.
And you
like,
just don't know what you're going to get. But I just knew when I heard it start. It's like, oh, this is one of those. I should probably address the situation. So, that's my wine for the week.
Oh, well, I'm glad that, like, it worked out okay. But still. I have a wine and a win. So, my wine is just, it's just 2020 working mom / caring for a kid full-time wine. Like, work is killing me. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, without getting into too much detail, my job, it's our busy season. Q4 is really, really busy, and it's constant. So there's constant emails, constant everything, and I'm just, like, at max capacity. I think I've, like, hit my wall. And then the other day I woke up and I had vertigo symptoms, which, you know, I shared with you, which is not great. But what panics me... I just get a text from you that goes, have you ever had vertigo? Like, why?
Well, it's... Why do you ask, friend?
Because calm me, like, whenever I'm in, like, a panic situation, like, I can remain really calm and just get through the situation. So if I stayed really still, nothing was happening. So I'm staying really still while Googling what happens when you have vertigo. Because the only people I've known that have vertigo have had really, really severe cases. And really, my mother-in-law thought she was going to die. She had it for, like, a week. And every time she moved, she, like, would physically get sick. And it was so bad.
Is vertigo, like, a transient experience?
It sort of just comes and goes.
I thought it was something that people had.
So, okay, this is what I've discovered in all of my research, is that you have these crystals in your ear that affect the inner ear stuff that helps you maintain balance. So you feel balance. So when those get dislodged or are not in the appropriate place, you feel motion sickness. Like you feel ill. Like I got up and you know when you're on a boat that's really rocking and you're like sliding back and forth and like grabbing, I was slamming into my walls. That's
crazy.
And then I had to crawl to the bathroom. And then this all happens. My daughter wakes up. My husband has really important meetings. If I stay really still, I'm okay. So I'm laying there letting my child do literally almost everything except for turn on the stove. And that just killed me.
Yeah, staying still while you're watching a toddler and have a full-time job.
Yeah.
Not easy.
It was just, and it's like my boss is amazing, but you know, it's the busiest time. So clients and brokers and different things are reaching out and they need something, you know, immediately because everything is an emergency.
You're like, but the world is tipping over.
And if I moved my head like a centimeter, I just became like, I felt like I was spinning.
Oh God.
Or like I was just like on this crazy seasick ride. So that was kind of like my whine. But good news is, I think I figured it out. I did this whole maneuver you can find online. So if you ever experience vertigo, Google home remedy treatments, and there's like a maneuver you can do. What is it called? Like the
Epley maneuver?
Epley maneuver? I sent it to her. And it was, or I sent it to you, I should say. And it didn't work right away, but it helped. And I slept all night and it was fine. And then my win is something really stupid.
Great.
But it kind of remedied this. So I'm like literally trying to find joy in the littlest, teeniest, tiniest things because I just need to make it to February when my work slows down and then I can focus on work and the toddler. But my win is I discovered this man on TikTok. So backstory about me, I'm a little bit obsessed with TikTok. I know it's like bad for you and bad for, you know, all the internet usage and it has all this crazy algorithm and whatever, but it brings me so much joy because there's so many things that are just not related to work or real life or anything. And there was a man and he said that he just found out that there was a rough translation from another language where the word penguin means business goose. And I heard that and I don't know why.
Yeah. You've been sending me dancing penguins ever since.
Because the way he said it, and I wish I could find his account to like give him credit for this, but he says, I just found out that translation for the word penguin means business goose, and I can't stop thinking about it. And when he said that, I lost it. And then I told my husband about it. I told you about it. And now I just walk by him and I'm like, business goose, and I crack up and I'm losing it. Clearly, I've lost it. But it was the funniest
You
thing.
sent me a picture of a penguin that you found on your walk.
Yeah.
And you're looking at Christmas lights.
Because this blow-up inflatable penguin was like
he looked
at
like
a rave.
A business goose.
And he was like vibrating. He was, we have, our whole neighborhood does this thing where they each try to like out inflatable each other. And like they buy those inflatable holiday decorations. And they're all the same, most of them. And then there's like the neighbor that like tries to one up the neighbor next to them.
Yes.
It's very strange.
My absolute favorite thing of the Christmas light walks is the house that goes all like crazy Griswold level lights. And then the house next door that's just like,
no,
here's my one blow up because why?
There's like one house where like they put up a string of lights that isn't even straight and it's crooked and it's only green and purple. And I'm like,
Barney lights?
Interesting. So yeah. So, I mean, I'm not really crushing it this week. I am super stressed. I need to prioritize making time for, like, healthy things that will de-stress me.
Like wine with me.
Yeah, like wine with you. And TikTok helped a little.
That's good.
So, and I'm vertigo-free as of this moment.
I know. I feel like you were just, like, feeling extra great today because of how horrible you felt yesterday.
Well, my husband's director, his boss, his wife got vertigo and it never left her, and like she just can't travel, she can't do anything, she like all of these terrible things. And so my like life flashed before my eyes. I was like, I'm never gonna be able to move with my kid, I'm never gonna be able to work well, and I'm already underwater as it is. So it was a weird.
How long has she had it?
Like years.
Oh my god. That sounds horrible.
So I have a newfound sympathy for anyone experiencing inner ear issues or vertigo.
Yeah.
But I'm super proud of myself because I made it through 2 meetings, finished all my work, and kept a toddler alive while experiencing vertigo symptoms.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Great job, friend.
Yeah. So that's all I have on that. But I thought what we could talk about today is all of the things that nobody ever tells you will happen before you become pregnant or before you become a parent.
Yeah, I think some kind of weird like
club or tribe or something.
It's like a secret.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, I know personally, I mean, I had kind of an unexpected pregnancy, and so I wasn't planning that, but I still had this huge image of what pregnancy was supposed to be like and parenthood was supposed to be like. And my mom always told me she felt the best she ever felt when she was pregnant, and she had this like miracle pregnancy and it was wonderful. And then later, as I was pregnant and dying because I was like violently sick, she was like, "Oh yeah, I felt terrible like most of the time."
That. You're like, "What?"
And I just couldn't believe it. So I wondered what other parents kind of felt like, because I think I lost a lot of ground my first year of parenting worrying about how things were supposed to be versus how they were. And I thought it also would be helpful for new mamas or mamas that are pregnant or expecting or maybe trying to get pregnant to know the real deal of what is coming their way.
Right, yeah. I think that's great. Like, it's good to talk about what is actually coming your way, but also the experience is so different for everybody.
Yes.
So I think it's just being realistic about the fact that A, you're not supposed to have it all together.
Right.
And B, it's okay to tell people when you don't, because there is this kind of feeling that it's supposed to just be natural. I should just be able to handle all this. And therefore I shouldn't tell anybody because they're going to think I'm a failure. And that's kind of, I think, what we both experienced in our first year of being a mom. It's just that having all those struggles and not being able to, not saying anything about it because you felt like you should have it all together.
Right. And I thought you and I are, very similar in how we process things and handle things. And even our pregnancies and parenthood journey has been so, so different. So we actually took to our Instagram, the Whining Moms podcast, and we asked some of our listeners and, friends and family kind of what were some of the things that they wished that they had known before they were pregnant. And the two main answers were heartburn and just how sick I would be.
And that was bad. That was one you had a hard time with, was the sickness.
Did you have any heartburn?
I didn't. So
Jocelyn's a unicorn.
I know. I feel every time you bring this up, I'm
no,
like,
but that's okay.
All you're going to do is make everybody hate me.
No, the point is that everybody is different. You might have a really, really great pregnancy. You might have a really, really shit pregnancy, and that's important to know either way.
So, yeah. So, with my first pregnancy, I was that person that was just like the glowing mom that like, this is great. This is fine. I was with both my pregnancies. I was very sick for the first, I never threw up. So, I guess I can't say I was very sick. I was very nauseous all of the time for the first probably 14 weeks, and then it went away, which I know was not your experience. I'd never had the heartburn either, but I just, I didn't have a whole lot of issues with it. I did have gestational diabetes with my daughter.
Okay.
And that was really hard. But I kind of was so annoyed that I had it. And like anybody that you told that you had it, they wanted to just talk about it and how awful it was and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I have to deal with this. It's annoying. I can't eat the cake that I want to eat. So just I don't want to talk about it. Leave me alone.
Right. That would be so frustrating.
It was annoying. And so that was, I guess, the one hard thing I had with my pregnancy. And I think people talk about getting the gestational diabetes test all the time because the drink is so gross, which I didn't even think it was that bad.
I didn't think it was that bad either.
I didn't think it was bad to drink it. It made me feel gross for the rest of the day because I don't usually drink just straight sugar like that on an empty stomach. So that kind of...
Claire went nuts after the drink too. Like, did your kids go nuts in your stomach like after all that sugar?
Yeah, a little bit. Especially I think with the second pregnancy because I had to have it a lot earlier with him since I had it with her. But I think everyone talks about that piece, but I personally hadn't had any moms that had gestational diabetes, so I felt like I was the only one or that I had done something wrong. So again, I had to go online and really research and see that it's just a thing that happens, and I had zero risk factors for it. But I think just that piece too of I didn't know anybody that had it before either, so I was just trying to just figure it out as I went, Google.
Well, that's important to know that you didn't have any risk factors for it, but that you can still get it. So, and I've heard a lot of people get misdiagnosed because they eat incorrectly before the test. So check with your doctors too to see what you should eat.
You take the test first, and they say you take a 1-hour test, and they say it doesn't matter what you eat before the 1-hour test, but it does matter in that. So it could have a false
donut
positive
and a banana and a Starbucks Frappuccino, chances are pretty high you're going to get.
So, but if you truly don't have gestational diabetes, your body will process the sugar and it will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you're kind of like, I guess, borderline or do have it, it's going to skyrocket your numbers. So when they do the 3-hour test, they do have you fast. And during the 3-hour test, they check your blood, give you the sugar, or they give you the drink, and test you every hour for 3 hours. So they just like trade off each arm, taking blood from it. It's super uncomfortable, and you're super hungry because you can't eat or drink the whole time. It does matter what you eat before, but also if you don't have gestational diabetes, your body's going to process it and it's going to be fine. But yeah, you can have the false positives as well. But I guess my point of that is just that's another one of those things that everybody talks about the drink, but nobody ever talked about actually having it.
Yeah. What flavor was your drink?
I think I chose the red one.
Okay. I had a clear one that was orange flavored, and it really wasn't that bad. It tasted like orange soda. So I know sometimes you get to choose. So that's the only reason I bring it up.
I can't have. Yeah, I can't deal. Maybe mine was orange.
Yeah. The other comment we got from Leah Mae Brown on Instagram was that she just didn't know, and we got this, I've heard this quite a bit from different moms, is didn't know how sick they would be. And that was something that rocked my world. So I've talked about how on previous episodes that I didn't know I was pregnant in the beginning because of my unique circumstances. And then also I was sick, but I was sick with like migraines, and I would get nauseous because of the headache. Like or at least that's what it felt like. So maybe it was morning sickness, but what got me was that I didn't know that you could get sick later in your pregnancy as well. Like I started to get, really as soon as I popped, I noticed it. Like as soon as she started to like pop out, and maybe she was just visibly, they're like growing, and I don't know if the hormones at that rate, whatever it was, I started to get really, really sick, and morning sickness, quote unquote, all day at like 20 weeks. And it was so bad. And I was working full time, and I would run down to this. So I worked on the 3rd floor of an office building, and I was managing a team of people that I didn't want to think that I like couldn't handle work, or I didn't want to burden them with worrying about me or whatever it was. I would run down the stairs, like the fire exit stairs, to go to the 2nd floor to puke so that nobody would feel bad. And also I just wouldn't be embarrassed, and then come back up.
Yeah.
And I had like my whole system. I had a drawer with extra clothes in case something happened. Like it was all of these things.
Oh my God.
The most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me during my pregnancy was we had an off-site, like security training, and we were in a hotel, and I was not familiar with this hotel. So I'd never been there before. There was supposed to be food and supposed to be snacks. So they tell you that morning sickness is in the morning. That's not true. It's all day. But I think it's, for me personally, was whenever I got low blood sugar, I got really, really sick.
Well, because you have to just, whenever you are experiencing the sickness, whether it's early in your pregnancy or like you had later in your pregnancy, you have to just eat snacks all day long.
Find something. Even if you can get in just the corner of a cracker, find that. But I was promised snacks, and there were no snacks.
I had so many snack drawers when I was pregnant.
I did too, but we were off site. We were So I made it. So it was a 3.5 hour training. I made it 3 hours, and then it like hits me, and I'm like, oh gosh. And of course, like my backup granola bar I ate the night before, and like all of these terrible things.
Like the anxiety of being somewhere new and having those feelings come on only makes the nausea worse.
And the group of people I was in this training with were people from across my company. So it wasn't just my team or like the people I know the most. So long story short, we make it to, I'm like white knuckling it, and it's like 5 minutes out. So the training's going to end in 5 minutes. So I'm like, I've got to run. So I run, find the bathroom, run in, get sick, right? I walk out of the stall, and I'm ready to wash my hands, and all of these men start walking in, and they're men that I know. They're men from my office, and I'm like, what is going on? And I look around, I'm in the freaking men's room.
Oh no.
I ran into the men's room, and they just heard me puke, and so I'm washing my hands. I can't even rush through washing my hands because I can't be the person who didn't effectively wash their hands and then go back to work.
You were ready for 2020.
I was mortified. So I put on my like super confident face. I'm like, hey guys, I'm really sorry. I ran into the wrong bathroom. Oh, it happens to everybody. dying inside.
Did they like feel sympathetic towards you?
Some of them didn't know what to do. Some of them laughed with me. Like some that did know me. Some like were like, "What in the world is going on?" Some walked in after and they're just like, "Why is she just washing her hands?" Because like it's the end of the training, so everyone's flooding in.
Right.
And again, I don't know all of them because they're in different departments, different things.
Hi guys, I'm just the sideshow of today.
No. It was terrible. And then I had to like go back to work and finish the rest of my day. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So moral of the story, keep snacks. You can get sick all day long.
Yeah.
And that was something I just didn't know. And I didn't know that it could like come on so randomly. I didn't know that it would be so physically like depleting. And again, it's different for everyone. I've had friends where it's just in the beginning or just in the morning or whatever, but just be ready.
Yeah, it can happen. Pregnancy is just so hard on your body. It's a lot that your body goes through, and I think that's something that we don't in our culture give women credit for. Mm-hmm. You're growing another human life in your body, and that does a lot of weird things to you. So whether it's
you're rearranging organs,
yeah, they're literally pushing things out of the way so that they can grow. So there's either whether it's the sickness or the fact that you're not sleeping, or just all the things your body goes through. Because with my second pregnancy, so my first one was a lot easier besides the gestational diabetes, which is I kind of, in the moment, that was horrible for me. But like looking back on it, I'm like, mostly I had a very easy pregnancy. My second one, I had a lot of just pains and stuff that concerned me once I got to like the latter half of my pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Just because I had a C-section the first time, and just all the different like ways that they push on the incisions and everything else, that I had just kind of discomfort. It was then just scary for me.
That would be really scary
with the second pregnancy. And I think I think in general, and I mean, you could attest to this as well, although you had a planned C-section with your first, so you might have had a little bit more information going into it. I had an emergency C-section with my first, but I feel like in general, there's not a lot of conversation about C-sections, what to expect, how to expect healing, how to expect your second pregnancy will be because you had a C-section the first time. And then there's the pressure of like feeling like you should have a VBAC because why wouldn't you want that experience and everything else. Which, side note, my doctor told me as she was sewing me up for my second C-section that the VBAC would have been a very bad choice.
And VBAC is vaginal birth after C-section.
Yes.
And that sounds terrifying to me.
It does. But I just feel like there's this feeling that and I know you've had I never had somebody say this to me, but I know you had somebody tell you that it wasn't a real birth because you had a C-section.
Yeah. One of my employees.
Like,
the balls.
What? So yeah, I think just kind of having a second pregnancy after having had a C-section just felt a lot different. And I feel like I had a lot more worries the second time around just because it felt different and I had a lot of pains, whether it was like the round ligament pains or just the pressure of the incision from prior stretching and the scar tissue and whatnot. You just don't know what it is. So you're
right.
And I think we're so used to our bodies withstanding so much between just having periods in general and then growing humans that you kind of just go like, oh, well, there's a human in there, so it's probably fine. It's scary sometimes.
Alongside that, I think it's important for any moms, whether you're new moms or like veteran moms with a million kids, is to know that you're going to get a lot of opinions from doctors and medical professionals that you can challenge. Like I didn't really feel comfortable doing that in my first pregnancy, and I wish I would have. Like I was told my baby was going to be over 10 pounds and I'm 4'11" and not working with a whole lot of real estate in that particular area, and I was so huge and I stuck straight out with Claire, and they convinced me that this baby would get stuck if I tried. And then I felt like I was like failing my daughter somehow, which is a crazy thing too, because look, if you want to schedule C-section, do you, but it had it because of all this like mom culture and the things that nobody tells you. No one ever told me that their doctor had told them just to schedule a C-section. Like I'd only ever heard of it in emergency cases. And here I was a month out and she was like, your baby is going to be so big. Like, and in hindsight, like I should have looked into that more. I should have done more research.
You do a lot of research, though. I do know one other person who is also very short that had the same advice.
Yeah, and I have really narrow hips, and so I guess that was part of it. But, but the point just being that like you will get a lot of medical advice, and it's okay if like your mama gut says don't do it, like. Or you get a lot of family advice, and it's okay for you to challenge that and say, hey, that is not something that I feel comfortable with or that I want for like my parenting. And something with our healthcare system in our country is that you will get your doctor's attention for like 5 minutes tops each time you speak with them. And maybe you have a really amazing doctor and that's different, but if you need more time, like demand more time. Yeah. If you need more information.
You're right. The doctors are in and out. And if you do ask, I have found that whether with my own doctors or with pediatricians, if you're just like, I need to ask you questions. Most doctors, at least in my experience, will like sit back down and be like, okay.
Yeah. Because I think you need to advocate for yourself in that case. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're so used, they do have such a busy schedule and so many people that need them. But I have found if you advocate and just say like, hey, I need to ask you some questions. Yeah. They'll kind of slow it down a little bit.
I know too, like we're going to do a whole episode on breastfeeding and pumping and all the things that go into all of that and how that ties into
for that one.
Yeah, how that ties into for like mom guilt and all those things. But I had the same hospital, the classes that you take for breastfeeding recommend something that the doctor contradicted. And literally in the class she said, if your doctor recommends this, she should not be your doctor. And sure enough, the doctor that helped me upstairs when I had my baby was the doctor who was like, oh, you should do XYZ. So that puts you in a really weird position. So just be ready for... I didn't realize how fast and furious things would come at you as a new parent. And, like, you kind of have to have your wherewithal to be able to say, like...
Well, and I think kind of what you're getting at, too, is that people, whoever it is that's giving you advice, they say it with such conviction because no matter who we are, whatever we see as our parenting, like, little sphere that we're in of, like, this is how parenting goes or this is my experience, people speak with such conviction, whether it be medical providers or friends or family, from that standpoint that you believe them.
Right.
You're like, oh, okay, that must be the gospel truth here.
Right, and why wouldn't you? Because it's like you're taught your whole life that
but you can question it. Yeah. And that's kind of the shift, right, into motherhood of just trusting that, like, oh, wait, no. I am now responsible for this human life, and now I make choices that are going to shape them. And it's just kind of that shift of now I'm not only somebody else's kid, I am now a parent to this kid, and figuring out what that means for you.
I think, too, that identity shift there is something that's really big. I know one of the things I kind of had on my list of things that I didn't realize, like, people tell you when you're going to have a kid, it's going to be so wonderful and you will do anything for them. And I would literally walk over hot coals for my daughter twice if I had to, you know, but I didn't plan for or anticipate how much of your identity is really easily lost in the first year or two of parenting. I don't have anything outside of that time frame to reference, but I feel like as she gets older, I'm getting better at doing
a little bit back.
Yeah,
as they get older.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I mean, obviously proximity to birth is something that impacts the time that you need to put in and those kinds of things. And not just your identity, but like your identity as your partner in your marriage or your partner with whoever you're parenting with changes so drastically that it's really hard to not have the whole universe circle around this tiny human. And I mean, of course it circles around the tiny human, and you do that, you prioritize
for another human to need you as much as a newborn does.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it, is that it's pressure on you because it's something you do because you love this human. I mean, most times people are planning for these situations and, you know, are happy that these situations are there even though they're hard. And you can feel two separate things at the same time. You can feel anxious and love, and you don't happy have to feel
bonded initially either. I think there's that kind of just Hollywood picture that the second the baby's put in your arms, you're super bonded and it's just this blissful moment, but then it's also really hard and you're also like just thrusted into this. You just gave birth to a human, so your body just went through all of that
major trauma
and trauma, and then you have to then you have a human that you don't know how to take care of. You have to figure it out as you go, which, like, you and I are not great at that. We like to be more prepared, but I think is why this is a topic that resonated with you, of just kind of, even if you had done all the research, I mean, and you did, you still don't know until it's in front of you.
I did all the research, guys. Like, when I tell you I obsessively researched, I mean, how many times did I text you and say, I read this article about this, did this happen to you? I read this article about this. And that's my nature, right? Like, I'm that person where at least knowing that all of these things could happen somehow makes me feel better if they do happen. But what I learned is that nothing ever looks like the picture. Nothing ever feels the same. It doesn't.
You would ask me about those. You would ask me about the articles, and I'd be like, well,
kinda, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but also no.
It's a lot of gray area, which I do not do well with.
Parenthood is all gray area, and that's not our strong suit.
That is, I think, my biggest lesson in things that I didn't know going into parenting that I know now, and I wish somebody would have told me, is like, get ready to be flexible, and not just like be ready to have your kids, you know, make your house a mess, but like be ready for things to not look and sound and feel the way you pictured they would look. I lost so much joy worrying about, are we going to take family pictures, or can we do this, or can we do that? You know, people have all these newborn shoots and whatever. And I was so crippled by anxiety that like even just getting out the door, the idea of that just stopped me in my tracks. And I was in so much pain, and there was all these different things that happened with Claire. And, you know, it's totally okay for it to look different than what you thought it would look like, or what your family told you it should look like, or how you think it should feel, or, you know, when people tell you what it will be like when your baby's on your chest for that first time in those first few minutes. It just get ready to just kind of explore your own path with that, and don't take everybody else's truth as your truth, is what I would say. Yeah.
And give yourself some grace that it's going to be harder than you thought it was going to be, and that's okay.
Yeah. And each phase is hard in a different way. That's something I didn't really anticipate either. I was asking my husband about kind of the things that, like, he wished he would have known. And the things that men are told are, like, the same three things. I feel like, and maybe I'm generalizing, but, like, oh, just you wait, or, like, you'll be wrapped around their little finger, or you'll get ready to never sleep. And those are all things that are just, like, kind of have zero to do with their identity, I feel like.
Yeah.
Whereas women are told, like, I had a coworker walk up to me in front of the team I manage and was like, "You're going to breastfeed, right?" And, like, since when can you just ask somebody what they're going to do with their tits? I'm sorry, but, like, that's not, I mean, if we're really breaking it down to what they're doing, that's just a weird thing. And now you're all of a sudden this, like, vessel to a human where people feel like they can just ask about those things in general.
Yeah, which is why we said we were going to do an entire episode on breastfeeding, because that's just a topic that, there's just so much. And we've both had very different experiences with breastfeeding that we can bring to the discussion table of just, it's not an appropriate question to ask a person, because there's so much more to that.
And that was something I didn't anticipate, or no one told me about before having kids, was how much it would suck to, like, pump in a public place. Did you ever have to pump or, like, breastfeed in a public place?
Yeah, that's a whole... I genuinely cannot get into my fears of breastfeeding in a public place, because it's going to be a whole diving in. I'll save that for our breastfeeding episode.
Yeah. I didn't even think through pumping or whatever. No, and I knew I was going to go back to work. And I did all the research on all the things, and I still was so ill prepared. I went back to work, and I just want to give everybody that might be going back to work and may have to work in a public place. Hopefully the pandemic passes and everyone's going back to the office, but it sucks a lot. And there's two things that I wish somebody would have told me, and we can talk about it in the breastfeeding episode too, but maybe find some kind of cover, even if you're in a public place that has a nursing room, because I worked in an office that had a glass door and it had shades over the door, and you could see through the side of the shades, and the only place you could sit to pump and that the plug would reach would be right where people could see. And I had men peeking in to, like, see what was happening in this room.
So
and I had to, like, line it with paper. And then also you have all these pump parts that you have to use, and then you have to go clean them somewhere, or store them somewhere. And I didn't think all the way through that. So I wish somebody would have told me, like, hey, get freezer or fridge safe bags that are not clear. They have waterproof bags. You can find them on Amazon. And I just wish somebody would have said, get yourself a set of, like, extra pump parts and waterproof bags that you can store it in the fridge.
Would put them in the fridge between pumping, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're the first person that told me that, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant.
It is brilliant. I was hand washing breast pump parts in front of my male counterparts in the kitchen sink of our office.
That's so much extra time that you're away from your job trying to wash the parts when you know you're just going to have to pump again in 3 hours.
Which then also meant that I was working while I was pumping, because I knew I was trying to make up for that time. And, you know, working while you're pumping is not really the best way to, like, get the most milk. You know, it's not like
Right.
really eliciting the same physical reaction that you're looking for. So if you are a mama who may need to pump or breastfeed in public, start to think about how you will feel most comfortable before you have your munchkin, so that it's not the first time that you're thinking about it when you have to do it. I went back to work immediately after my maternity leave was over. That week, 3 days later, we had to fly to Minnesota from Phoenix for work, for my job. And so my husband was gracious enough to come with me so that I wasn't away from my brand new baby. And he came, and we were at a convention center, and I didn't know where the nursing room was to pump. And it was a huge center. So I'm back after 12 weeks off, and I'm in stilettos, and I'm trying to find this nursing room somewhere in this building that, of course, is like the size of a football stadium. And I walk in, and there's like 15 other women, and I like froze because like I don't want to like whip the girls out and be like pumping in front of these other people, and I'm in this dress that like I didn't really think through. And then my like time is running out because there's meetings I have to get back to, and I ended up having to like leave the day early because I just was like leaking everywhere, and it was a navy blue dress, and it was the worst experience.
Well, and you're a new mom, and you're just trying to figure out being a working mom.
And I'm away from my baby for the very first time, and I'm like Ubering back with like these big milk stains on my dress. It was mortifying. Yeah, just think through that a little.
And that's part of your identity too, that your body just goes through so many changes that it's the first time in your life that you can't hide those things.
Yeah.
If your body's going to just start leaking milk, it's going to start leaking milk. And it just feels you just feel very exposed.
Nobody told me that you would leak milk before I got like to birth and knew I was going to be nursing. Like, I mean, of course now in hindsight, it makes sense that like, oh, you're going to make milk, but like, I thought it was on demand. Like, I really just thought it was like the baby is nursing and therefore you produce milk. It didn't make sense to me. And
especially if you've missed a pumping session because you couldn't get like the appropriate setting or whatever, and then it's just got to go somewhere there.
Yeah, if you don't pump or don't feed, it will come out. It will find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's painful.
Oh my gosh. My boobs were like rocks. I was dying. It was terrible.
Yeah. What about once you were more into the mom phase? Like, is there anything you wish that you knew about like the early toddler years?
Yeah, I think I would have paid more attention to kind of what my kids like love language is. Like I've kind of like recently just uncovered that like her love language is quality time. And so like for her, 5 minutes of me without my phone or whatever, like focused on her means the world to her. And I know that some of my other friends have kids where it's like their toys and the gifts that they get, like they treasure them, and it's like gifts are there. And I thought love languages was like kind of cheesy, like from a marriage perspective, because I think you need all of those things to make a marriage work. But I definitely think that that's something that I really wish I would have known more about, so I could like play into that. The other thing I wish I would have known is to really prioritize my role in my marriage just as much as I prioritize my role as a mom, because we had a friend recently, one of my husband's really good friends is going through a divorce, and he was saying that they just don't know how to be parents outside of, or don't know how to be partners outside of parenting, and their kids all went away to college.
Oh.
So now they have to like be with each other without doing something for somebody else all of the time. Yeah. And so now a light bulb went off for us where we're like, okay, let's make a regular date night. Let's, because.
Well, and people say that, right? Like, I know people that do get regular date nights where somebody else is watching their tiny humans and they go out and they actually do things, but that's not what date night has to mean.
No. And it's a pandemic right now. I can't be like, hey, let's have a sitter come over and we'll go catch a concert. Like,
but pandemic or not, I literally asked my husband the other night, I'm like, hey, you want to have a date night? Because I just felt like we needed to just cuddle on the couch and watch a movie and just connect.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, sure. So it's just having that time that's set aside, that even if it's the same thing that you're mostly doing every night, but just making a concerted effort to say like, hey, let's do this. Do something that's just feeling like you're getting some time together that's different, or just at least more focused quality time on each other, and just fostering your relationship rather than just going from, because you can get stuck even when you do get a sitter and go out to dinner. It's like you just talk about the kids anyway,
right?
You're so involved in it, but just figuring out, just making sure that you remember why you were connected in the first place.
I think too, actually having a real conversation outside of the kids is so important, like you said.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy to get lost in talking about the kids, even when you make that time. And even now with pandemic having been the way that it is, we're at home all the time. And so it's really easy to coexist without actually interacting.
Yeah.
And that was something that it just made me realize, like, this is something that will challenge your role in this, even if you have the most solid relationship.
Yeah. Well, and I do view you and your husband as a very solid relationship, but I also hear you telling me that from time to time. If just you guys just need that time to connect, which is a good thing to recognize that you need that time, and then you guys take that time.
Yeah. And it's what's been nice is just even after we had the conversation of like, hey, it's important to me to make this a priority, and I hear that this is something that, like, each of us saying, like, I hear you need this and I need this to be able to have a functioning marriage. That, like, you know, I brought up that it would be nice if we had quality time together. And like, even tonight as I was heading out the door, I was like, oh, you know, I'm gonna head over to Jocelyn's and, you know, record a podcast. And he's like, okay, great, can we have date night tomorrow? You know, just making sure you hear each other. It
makes you feel good too that they make the point to say that.
Yeah.
Prioritize each other.
Speaking of husbands, I did ask my husband, I said, you know, what was something that you didn't expect about parenting? And I mentioned some of the things he shared earlier, but he was really, really shocked about the level of mom judgment that there is. So, so much mom judgment. So that actually brings me to my crazy check.
Great.
Okay. My question for you on Crazy Check is semi-related to the judgment that moms experience. So even my husband was shocked about some of the judgments that have occurred. And he was even shocked at some of the judgments that, like, he made after becoming a parent, hearing how other people parent, like just those kinds of things. It's hard when people parent differently than you. A lot of the feedback I saw online from other moms was related to kind of like the mom tribe mentality. And this is something I have experienced recently.
I have very negative feelings about that.
So, okay, I feel, here's my crazy check.
Okay.
I feel like women are encouraged to participate in, like, this mom tribe culture because momming is really freaking hard. See previous episodes and know all of the things that are very hard. And that they're encouraged to, like, forge this relationship with women that have been through it to, like, help have a sounding board. And I agree with that to some extent. I think that there's a really powerful information when you connect with women in your life that have been through something that can share with you something that's real, kind of like what we're trying to do here at this podcast, and really, you know, build up that relationship. But I feel like every time I've engaged with anything that is, like, labeled as a group for moms or, you know, something that you would contribute to as, like, this motherhood thing, I've ended up experiencing some random just mom shade, like some like mean girl kind of behaviors. And, like, I spent so much time as an adult trying to grow out of those things and really just check on myself and, like, what matters, what doesn't, and let all this bullshit go. But do you feel like a lot of times mom tribe mentality can also lend itself to, like, judgment and weird comparisons?
Yeah. So no, I don't think you're crazy for feeling that way. Like, from out the gate, like, that's just, well, we've always been the kind of people, we've joked about the fact that we always had more male friends than female friends because I think just female mentality in just the girl group friendship situation tends to lend itself to just being judgy in general. Some way in which we've been taught to relate to one another is whether it's being judgy about somebody in the group, like, there always seems to have to feel like there's some outcast of the group that you all have to band together to, like, make feel like more of an outcast. And then when it's the mom, it's again, when it's a mom tribe, it's that everybody has their little sphere of, like, this is what I feel like momming should be. And if you align with more people in the tribe, you kind of ostracize the people that are a little bit different. And that's not okay, because everybody does their mom thing a little bit different. And as long as their kids are safe, who are you to judge them? So it seems like it's more of that the moms are looking for the camaraderie, but for some reason, I don't know if it's a women thing that a lot of women tend to do, or if it's a mom thing, but it's like you feel like you have to have that almost scapegoat to bond with each other. I don't know. And that's not how either of us are programmed to be.
Right.
So, and we've never been that way. That's why we've never had a
and you and I have shut
tribe
down with that kind of behavior if we experience it.
Yeah, because we're like, what are you doing? That's not how we should be. We should be treating each other with kindness, and we should be lifting each other up, which is part of our whole goal in this as well, is to lift women up, and that moms should be lifting each other up and parents should be lifting each other up. It shouldn't be this like ostracizing thing.
I'm glad I'm not crazy. That was just I just felt like, it really lends itself to thinking like, oh, mom tribes are so positive and so great. And it's like, especially if we're going to build a community around this podcast and those kinds of things, I really would like anybody who is listening or interacting in our comments to really focus on like sharing real life experiences and hearing other people for exactly where they are and where they're coming from and for their opinion without asserting your judgment and or experience as the equivalent of a judgment on that specific topic. So I just, I don't know. It was something that had been kind of weighing on me. And I also wanted to make sure that we spent time kind of discouraging, because I think that every mom is fighting the good fight. We talk about that a lot. And I think it's important to just make sure that we're just lifting each other up.
Well, yeah. And you get that feeling with the whole mom tribe vibe that you're supposed to find this like big group of moms, and it's like I was never programmed to be that way. You need to find it is a good thing to find your mom friends that
your support
that can be your support, and if that's one person, great. If that's like 2 or 3 people, and even if they're not one big group, if it's just people that you talk to separately, that's great. And even if it's stuff like this, listening to a podcast of moms that you feel like you can relate to that help you feel sane, you need to find your support however that looks. And I think when it gets to be those big groups or quote unquote tribes, it's too much of just like this curated feel.
That's such a great word for kind of what I was envisioning. It feels,
it doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah. It feels like they're doing it for the gram.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I agree. I 100% agree.
Okay.
And if you don't feel like you fit into one of those groups, like you're
welcome
normal.
here.
Yeah. You're welcome here and you're normal.
And we don't either.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for chatting with me, George. Happy Wednesday, as always.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday to all of you listeners out there. Check us out on our Instagram, the Whining Moms Podcast, and let us know what you think is making you crazy this week, so we can chat about it on our next episode. Subscribe. Recommend this episode to anybody who is a new mom or is just living their mom life and needs to hear all the things that no one ever let them know before they were pregnant.
Absolutely.
But thanks for listening. Check us out next week, and happy Wednesday.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us.